Christian parenting.
And the church needs to take up that charge and hear that call, clearly. And I think it's a congregational type charge, so that there's not one family picking that up in a church that is not doing it together with the rest of that church. Right. We raise our children in church, and we do that among the community that's supporting us in the raising of our youth. And so we ought to do that in terms of foster care and have a real clear eye to, the Lord's path.
Hey, welcome back, sweet friends, to the Called to Love podcast, where, as you know, each week we dive into the practical, the clinical, and always, most importantly, the biblical aspects of the foster care and adoption callings. Today, we are so privileged to welcome Scott Fuller to the show, and we're going to be diving into a lot of the extension of the support that you give your kids through foster care and even adoption. When we are dealing with kiddos who've experienced trauma in various levels, sometimes we need extra help, and there is no shame in that. Matter of fact, God has built some incredible programs and resources available to us as foster and adoptive parents, and so I want you to learn about those today. So we are welcoming Reverend Scott Fuller. He is the Vice President of Advancement at the Murphy Harpst Children's Centers in Georgia. This is an independent nonprofit organization that is committed to meeting the needs of abused and neglected children through residential treatment, placements in specialized foster care, and community programs for these at-risk youth and their families. And they just celebrated their 100th anniversary. Guys, this is an incredible organization. Their mission is to provide a safe and nurturing environment where severely abused and neglected children can thrive and heal towards a goal of re-engaging with society and leading productive lives. Scott, welcome. Thank you so much for being here to share with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here with you, Summer. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. It's been a pleasure just getting to know you just as we were kind of preparing for our conversation today. And I'm excited for our listeners to get to know you. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do and why you are passionate about serving kids who are at risk.
Wow. So, Murphy Harpst, 100-year-old agency. I've been here for 10 of those last 10 years, following years of pastoral ministry, church planting. I came in here actually after planting, organizing a church in a stopgap, kind of sabbatical time, decided to do a little volunteer work to help youth in that interim, and basically got hijacked by these young people, really burdened for them.
Yeah.
And why I do this, is because the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. He saves the crushed in spirit, as the psalmist says. And, I want to be where the Lord is, and the Lord really, he called me in the unique time, in the transition from pastor down here. And it just became a moment of, renewal from our own heart in ministry. And so these youth have become a part of my pastoral prayer list and a part of my ambition to see them flourish. So why I do it is because this is the path the Lord has regularly trods, right, in order to help the vulnerable. So it brings a lot of joy to me to see these children be served, and to work with communities, that church communities particularly, that want to use their resources and the gifts God's given them to lift others up, and just really blessed by those communities and serving them to do that. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And as you were sharing that, I love that. I'm sure you're familiar with Bishop Martin, who's the story of hope, or the sound of hope, related to just his story in Texas. And he came and spoke recently at our agency, and he said, this isn't the government's problem. This isn't the government's responsibility. It's the churches. It's the body of Christ that is responsible for responding to these children in need. And so I love that you share that. And, many families do not know, Scott, that programs like yours are available. And so I would love for you just to take a few moments to share with us about the specifics of the services that the Children's Center offers.
Yeah. So, We have a residential program for kids ages 13 up through 21, to providing a home, a healing place and environment for them to recover from trauma, to prepare for independent living. We have a transitional living program on our campus that's serving older teens up to age 21. So we have recreational programming and equine therapy, art, a lot of things along with our campus-based academy. We have a wonderful resource for children who are underserved or who may not be able to be served well in a family environment because of the level of trauma and behavioral disorders that they're
Right.
experiencing. And so we're helping those kids with those challenges. And as you know, you got a lot of, it's more difficult to find folks ready to step up and volunteer to foster those older teens or teenagers.
Right.
A lot of folks want, and I understand that, you want to foster, adopt the younger children. So we're working with that population on our campus, and helping them stabilize and prepare them for a foster family home, to prepare them for independent living so they can step down and back into community. So we do that on our campus. We also recruit, train, support, 24/7 support to families, individuals in Northwest Georgia, Metro Atlanta area who want to foster children and welcome them into their homes. So we provide a specialized foster care service as a child placing agency, and to train our parents, fosterers, to know how to work with children who come from hard places. And so we provide the kind of necessary support to those families. So no one does it alone. No
Yeah.
one parents a child, you know, alone, really, or well, anybody.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're wrapping around those fosters the kind of community, church support, and the support from our staff that they need so that that placement might be successful. Then we also have in local communities a new initiative called the Evolve Initiative, where we have a hybrid model of both what a foster family home and what we have in our residential therapeutic setting, where we have a family styled home that'll serve 4 children, and we hire the fosterer to go to the home, assign a team on a rotating 2 week basis to the home. We assign a therapist to the home, so there's in-home therapy, a behavioral aid, with mentors and tutors for education, and we keep the children in the local community, in the schools, and provide community wraparound support from churches, to be able to provide that kind of setting. So, and that's really serving a group of kids who have not been able to find placement in foster families because of behavioral and emotional issues. So we're taking what we do in a congregate setting on our 160-acre campus, and we're putting it down into a small family styled model, with therapeutic services in that local setting. So those are some of the things we're doing. We also just opened in January a QRTP, which is Qualified Residential Treatment Program, as a step down unit for children in a psychiatric facility, to help bring them out of that facility. So we've got a special 30 to 60 day a program to help those kids begin to stabilize and move back down in levels of care. So
Wow.
that's a quickie.
And that's incredible. I mean, I am just blown away at the amount of services that you provide and the needs that are being met. I mean, ideally, we would want to live in a world where none of this is needed, but unfortunately, it is. And so to have this is just absolutely incredible. And you talked about community, and I want to lean into that for a moment, Scott, because it really is so important for those who feel called to foster or adopt. Understand that not only is it okay, but it is necessary to operate in a space of ongoing community in order to see success in our stories for our children, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things we do here in our campus, and the benefits that Murphy Harpst provides is having residential, we can engage, or do have a lot of churches engage our our programs here on our campus. They come to do birthday parties. They come. We've got a group of university students coming on April 25th to help host our prom for our kids. So
Oh,
we
wow.
really value community and pull them in. And so people who've never, there maybe they're entertaining the idea of fostering. Maybe they don't understand a lot about the foster system and children in the system. And we provide a safe place for them to come and engage with us in a campus environment and
Yeah.
get to know our kids, play bingo with them and host a birthday party, support them at different recreational events. And that, we find that's very helpful to help build in the community a greater awareness and readiness of ministry to
Yeah.
help these youth. Helps. It's sort of like a zero entry for folks thinking about fostering,
Right.
um, to get involved and to see the teenagers, which most time people foster, they're looking for those younger ones, and to be able to be here in this environment is helpful to really opening that door of opportunity to encourage fostering these older you know, kids.
Yeah.
But community is so important. I mean, it is the church's call. I mean, the apostolic charge that we have in James chapter 1. It's the call to care for the widow and the orphan in the distress. True. If we get right down to it, it's to true youth ministry. Most of our churches out there listening, people, I was converted through a youth ministry in my home church growing up, and they're vital. Pizza parties, all kinds of stuff. We're learning about Jesus in a fun environment. But if you want to get down to the real issue of youth ministry and where the scriptures speak directly to ministry of youth, it is the costly ministry uh, of siding with a vulnerable child, the
Yes.
fatherless, right? And the church needs to take up that charge and hear that call, uh, you know, clearly. And I think it's a congregational type charge, so that there's not one family picking that up in a church that is not doing it together with the rest of that church. You
Right.
know, we raise our children in church, and we do that among the community that's supporting us in the raising of our youth. And so we ought to do that in terms of foster care and have a real clear eye to the Lord's path. I mean, you look and read the Gospels. I mean, his entourage, the King of Kings, his entourage is not with the strongest and the most noble, the mighty, but with the weak.
That's right.
And his pedagogical tool, generally, in training future leaders and ministers like the apostles, was a child.
Yeah.
And we learn with a child how vulnerable we ourselves are, how much we need the Father
Yeah.
and the Lord. So community is vital. Community is vital. It's tragic, and then this. I'm sure your listeners are well aware that if like here in the state of Georgia, if every church would take one child, we wouldn't have a crisis.
That's right.
You know, so it's clear that the churches aren't hearing the charge clearly.
Yeah.
And But we need to step into that. So yeah, I would
I
encourage
agree.
folks to really get involved. And Murphy Harpst provides a way for churches to come in a missional way, to come see what it's about,
Right.
learn a little bit more. You know, yeah,
I love that. And that right there is key. And we share the same statistic here in Arkansas where our agency operates. And it is, if one church would step in, then that would solve 100% of the need in our state. And so it sounds so simple, but yet it's a messy ministry. It is intimidating. We feel ill equipped. We feel uninformed. There's just a lot to that. So to know, again, that's another reason why I love getting to have conversations like this, because we can say, there are programs that exist. There is support that exists, and it is biblically based, and it is proven. It is therapeutic. It's all the things that we would need in order to engage and be obedient to this apostolic calling that you had mentioned. So I love that. I think the other part of it, Scott, that's really helpful is, you know, churches and maybe even families who are listening right now, they're thinking, oh, that sounds great, but tell me the stories. Give me some hope. Show me the proof that there really is hope on the other side of the brokenness that you're asking me to engage with. So, have you seen, or how have you seen some of the programs that you guys offer in your organization? How have you seen that bring about hope and change in the kids that you serve?
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, we see it every day. There's just a young man we took in our an Evolve program down in Augusta, Georgia,
Mhm.
back this past fall. He had been in 19 different placements
Mm.
in 18 months.
Oh, wow.
Um, and he's a rather large young man. He was having some real behavioral issues, challenges, the rejection, the disappointment. It was
Mm.
manifesting itself some real unhealthy ways. So foster families were overwhelmed. Come here, go away kind of process,
Yeah.
right? And rejection. But he landed in our Evolve program with the support of folks there. Was in school. His grades were picked back up because he was failing. He discovered his love for football, joined the football team. He began to stabilize.
Mm.
And, he's had some of the best experiences, playing football, all the staff out there with the signs cheering him on. And to see him, he's on a track. He wants to go to college. He wants to play football. I mean, to watch him go from this child so depressed to
Mm.
now being enjoying school, succeeding, feeling rewarded and blessed. I mean, you can see it in his countenance. And he went with our staff up to their church doing a mission conference there in Augusta, and he went up with our staff and was a part of that mission conference and just introducing himself to people. I mean, the confidence, just it's just hard to imagine the change,
Right.
right? But to the presence of folks there with him, and it had the multiple staff that were there to support each other, to work with him through his anger and some of those issues, but to see him stabilize and now be succeeding is just I mean, really exciting.
Yeah.
That's one. It's just a recent one. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago, and just seeing the transformation in his life has been really encouraging. There's just multiple stories. There was a young man that was here not long ago, about age 14, and he was struggling with anger. A lot of them do from the rejection and having a hard time fitting into our program.
Mm.
And he was down at the horse barn where equine is such a big deal because the kids will whisper in an ear of a horse and bond with an animal, before they would ever, bond with an adult, right? Because they've been
Exactly.
hurt or rejected and so
Right.
forth. And so he was down at the horse barn and they were learning to put a saddle on the horse, and he got angry and he threw the saddle down. He's struggling, to get the saddle on, and he threw the saddle down and began to turn and walk away. And ended up where the horse followed him and began to nudge him in the back.
Oh, wow.
He turns around, looks at the horse. At the same time, our equine coordinator, said, "Stephen, Blaze wants you to put the saddle on him." And in that moment became a moment for this young boy to really weep and settle in, feeling a sense of being wanted. Uh,
Yes.
it was a horse, but it became the first steps. So we have moments like that happen.
Incredible.
You know, uh, they're just every day, but it's the small things. It's the small things.
That's
Like
right.
there were kids the other day, first time seeing a sunset. Never saw a sunset. 16-year-old,
Wow.
and they were up on the hill. The staff just walks out, and you know those are major milestones.
That's
And
right.
and whether you're fostering a child in your home or whether we're doing it in congregate, to be present with the kids and to give them opportunities to see the world, to experience things, and you know, uh, just to be stable ourselves and have them come along with us to these places is a powerful healing um, work.
That's right.
Uh, and we see it here on campus quite regularly and with our foster families. Just sticking with them. There's no magic formula. It's love.
Right.
That's it. And the Lord's the one who heals. He's the one who knows our innermost being. He's the one who's acquainted with trauma, right? And grief.
Yes.
He bore our sorrows. We're here in Passion Week this week, and we have a high value for therapists and all that stuff, but the Spirit of the Living God knows us deeply, and the souls of our children. We there's a sense in which it's off our shoulder. You
Yes.
know that 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 the government rests upon His shoulders, the Lord. And when it comes to raising children, whether it be a parent or whatever, you can be really anxious about the future and what am I doing
Yes.
or I'm not doing. And
Yes.
to recognize that these are His children and that He's the one who's near to the brokenhearted, and to be present for the youth as adults, who trust the Lord, not anxious over what the Lord is doing, or concerned over, unduly over the youth, but just to be present with them, to love them well,
Yes.
and just providing them a safe place is like the very first step to
Yes.
loving them well. Um, and I think that's important, and just seeing how the they find those childhood moments to grow and flourish. Um, and so yeah.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's just so inspiring. And just hearing you communicate the heart of the mission and the work that's being done there. I mean, there's a reason why that organization is over 100 years old now, because it is blessed with that type of heart and approach. And it is just such a beautiful reflection of the heart of our Heavenly Father in what He wants for all of His children. And so, and when you break it down like that, I think it really does simplify. When God calls, we respond, and then we let the weight of everything else fall to His shoulders. What a great reminder for us as parents, wherever we find ourselves in that adoption or foster calling today, Scott. That's
Right.
so, so beautiful. I want to ask this question because I know we have listeners today who are in a situation where their hearts are invested in a child in their home. They have said yes to foster care, adoption, or some combination of the two, and the child is just still struggling very much with the trauma that they bring with them into their home, and the parents are just feeling hopeless and not knowing where to turn, and maybe for the first time hearing about services like what you've described for us today that are being offered, and understanding that there is additional help outside of the home, and there is no shame in needing that additional help. And so would you just talk about that for us a little bit, of just how
Yeah.
families can accept and pursue the additional help as an extension of the love that they are giving their child to help them overcome these traumas and see them thrive.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think going back to this, we don't do this alone, and recognizing that there are times we reach limits of ability and
Yeah,
services, and mental health is I mean, we're becoming more and more as a community aware of mental health
right.
issues, needs, and particularly in children. And children are resilient, and I mean, they can heal. And there is a healing path to mental health. Um, and as parents, there are, and fosterers, there are resources available, and to have places like Murphy Harpst, and other kind of therapeutic resources to help those children, because we have, whether it be the family of origin that are involved with our kids here on campus, or a fosterer who's taken on a child and that child needs more services, and they come to our campus. Those fosterers are still working and having visits, and they are a part of the program as that child gets the help that he or she needs. Um, it's critical to reach out,
Yeah.
um, and get the support, that those families need. And so yeah, I would encourage any of them. Don't keep trying to feel like you need to be the one and the source to, like the healing. Going back to what I was saying before, that this all on us. And if I don't see the advancement, there's something
Right.
I'm doing wrong.
That's
You
right.
know, there's a real health issue here, a physical, mental health issue that needs to be addressed. You're the one who's there, help provide the opportunity for that child to get what the child needs. So there are agencies that are out there that are providing that mental health therapeutic services, and there are a lot of resources too to help. They can train those foster. We do this with our foster parents. So
Mm-hmm.
TBRI,
Yep.
trust-based relational intervention, Caris Purvis Institute. We work really hard with both our staff on campus and our fosterers to train them and help them understand. So they have resources and tools themselves to
Right.
do the work, but there are oftentimes the specialized need of services in a place like we have here on campus. Or in the evolved setting that we have in a home there,
Yeah.
uh, to maintain the safe place to provide those extra services the child may need,
Right.
while also maintaining the connection with that home of origin or family, uh, or foster parent engagement.
Yeah. That is amazing. I love that. Thank you for that. Just word of encouragement. I think we need to hear that,
Yeah.
that it is love when we ask for help, that we don't have to be the solution at all times, that God creates these opportunities for a reason that we can engage with. And I think I want to ask this question too, just because, you and I are both very spoiled to having very trusted, biblically based programs that we can recommend without a thought because we know that it is in fact a safe place that is going to point our children to ultimately the healing power of Christ. Mental health can be a really, really challenging space at times because that's not always, some of the mental health practices don't always point our kids in that direction. And
Right.
and our children who've experienced trauma are very vulnerable to all different forms of influence. And so how would you counsel our families who not everybody's in Georgia or Arkansas, right? And so you and I can refer that every time, but for our families maybe who are located in different states, what advice would you give just to help them kind of vet and discern reliable and safe places that they can reach out to help for?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, that's a great question. I think kind of just researching, and asking, where are those faith-based organizations doing the work? Um, and I would want to make sure that they are, when you're looking for therapeutic, that you're having a qualified, licensed therapeutic program, right? You know, I like to think about, the difference between the good news and good advice.
Hmm.
I go to my physician not because I'm looking for the gospel to be proclaimed. I'm going to my physician because I'm looking for the good health advice that he gives. And he's got
Right.
services. The Lord gave him the skill set to know. And, how do you vet the physician, right? I mean, but,
Yeah.
I don't need the physician to have to be the Christian in
Right.
order to give me the advice that I need,
Right.
right? I trust the Lord, and I'm going to get the best physician I can get, best
Yes.
qualified licensed physician available to me. And I think when you're looking for services, mental health services, things like that, you've got to make sure we're not lowering the bar in terms of mental health services,
Right.
because we are raising the bar for spiritual services,
Sure.
right? We want both. We want them both done well, and
Right.
I think that's the challenge. And so what I'd say is for those parents, as you're seeking out those places, continue to provide. We always are providing the environment, the Christian environment in our home, that the children will follow parents and adults and those who are the leaders in their lives.
That's
And
right.
there's a sense of just, you know looking for creating that Christian environment, that healthy family environment for that child, and seeking out that qualified therapeutic support for their mental health. They may need medication, they may need other things to help during that time, for them to settle and begin to kind of, uh, to heal,
Yeah.
but nothing can replace, the parent, that fosterer, uh, at home, in their own walk with the Lord, and the environment that they create of love and stability. Um, that's a refuge, right?
Yes.
While you're
That's
getting
right.
all of that good advice and that good help.
So
So I
good.
wouldn't say that you can't, you shouldn't, you should only find the Christian therapist or the Christian, right? I mean, you can find the best one you can find,
Mm.
and continue to provide that environment of Christian care in your home. Um, I'm all for faith-based organizations, but we're in a world where often your listeners as Christians are going to find themselves where they don't have those available resources.
Right.
And because they're not a Christian, I don't want them to feel like, okay, just that they're hindered from getting the help.
That's a good point.
There are great therapists out there. We need to seek the help, for those youth. Um, but I hope that answers some of the questions.
That's
It's
great.
not an easy path to walk sometimes.
That's very true. I love what you said earlier of just, I trust the Lord. And so if we're
Mhm.
seeking him, you said it. I mean, they're his children. He loves them even more than we possibly could. And we are incredibly invested in and have given our hearts to these children. So imagine how much more he loves and cares for them. And so he will provide good things for them, as the
Right.
scripture says.
I
And
mean, I look
so,
like I'm participating in what the Lord is doing.
right. That's right.
I'm not asking him to come participate in something I've got going on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
where I've got to do all in hopes that if I'm working hard enough, he's going to get involved. No,
Right.
this is the path the Lord is, on,
Yep.
and he loves the road of prayer. He works along the road of prayer, and he near to the brokenhearted, right? So this is something that I get to participate in,
Yep.
and the confidence in the Lord,
Yes.
uh, you know, and then to be freed in that confidence and hope, to be able to love well, which is costly. Love is hard in a
Yes.
broken world.
That's
It's
right.
filled with a lot of tears and a lot of sacrifice and painful days. And that's what foster care is. I mean, you kind of take away you adopt that child, you foster that child. You know that you are getting ready for some hard days,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
Any parent knows that, and you wear your knees out in prayer, because
Yes.
what I cannot do, I know the Lord does, and
So good.
can't change my child's heart. I can't soften my child's heart. I can't make them believe what I want them to believe.
Right.
The Lord is gracious and merciful and loves and saves. So, there's a sense that there's a freedom that gives, right?
Yes.
To
Absolutely.
really lay it on the line and love the child.
So good.
And if when we don't do that, then we're running the risk of really communicating anxiety and control. We become sort of this messianic complex, where the children are thinking they need us rather
Yes.
than they need the Lord. At
That's it.
some point, I'm going to have to tell my child, you need to trust the Lord.
That's right.
I need you there, Daddy. No, no, you don't. The Lord is with you. It's like, so
So
I can't like train them one way for like 15 years and then train them another, and hope that they'll figure out the trust in the Lord. It
yeah.
kind of starts early in, my mind and heart. So anyway, all
So
that
good.
applies with fostering, because I think I've met a lot of foster parents who come in with a sense of, we're going to do this missionally. We're going to go out here, sort of that missional mindset. We're going
Right.
to give it, and then they're overwhelmed,
Right.
not prepared for what they're about to face, and they're anxious about, things, rather than feeling a bit freed by the call of mission, because
Yes.
this is the Lord's mission, and being participant in it is freeing, I think.
I absolutely agree with that. Oh, that's fantastic. What a great way just to land that whole thing. Fantastic word, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to make sure for our listeners who are just curious about and want to learn a little bit more about the work that you do at Murphy Harpst and maybe as that kind of helps them guide if they feel like they do need to seek a little bit more help where they are, how can they learn more about your organization and how can our listeners support if they feel so led?
Yeah, thank you. So murphyharpst.org, murphyharpst.org. Our website is a great resource with videos and a lot of information about what we do, who we are, and you can connect with us there. Would love to speak with anyone who is interested in knowing more about foster care world, particularly here in Georgia. But anyone anywhere would love to get them in touch with available resources so they can explore more of the missional field of fostering. We need foster parents. In the state of Georgia, we've got about 12,000 children in custody, and we have about 2,300 foster families serving those over 12,000
Wow.
kids.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we've got 10,000 kids who lack a family home placement. And we're in a state of emergency. We need churches and families to step up. If anybody's interested, I'd love to talk with them and tell them a little bit more about what it looks like and introduce them. We'd love to have volunteers. We need community and volunteers here in our various programs to come and see and be involved with our kids. And certainly, we all don't do the same thing, but we all can do something.
That's
And
right.
um, and for those who have the ability and are willing to donate, it is a costly endeavor to raise children, um, uh, in the foster system and to put them on a path of healing. So we rely upon the gifts, the $100 gifts, regular gifts, large gifts from our friends. And so we'd love to serve you well and have you on board as a partner with us. But murphyharpst.org would be the place to go.
Fantastic. Okay, friends, I will have that link in today's show notes so that you don't have to look for it. You can just click over as soon as you hit stop on today's episode and you can access that information and learn more. Scott, I am so grateful for everything that you've shared today. It's been such an encouragement, so insightful, and such a blessing. So thank you so much for being my guest
Thank
today.
you. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to Called to Love today. I love to hear from listeners, and so I would love to connect with you to hear your stories and answer your questions right here on the show. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, send me a direct message, or send me an email at the link in today's show notes. I pray you have been encouraged by today's episode to walk in faith and continue to embrace your own call to love. Until next time, blessings, sweet friends.